Welcome to my therapy room. This is just a little tranquil room that I created for us to have a safe space in and we can share with one another. This is my first podcast style video. I do not consider myself a podcaster. You will still get the regular videos. However, this is something that I wanted to start doing whenever I feel the need to share with you guys, just because I wanted to find a way to talk about how I was able to heal, and I'm still healing, but how I was able to get to a very comfortable place after being in a relationship for almost 5 years with the same person and it coming to an end. So I'm calling this podcast Healing Hearts, as I hope to help aid in healing your heart if you are heartbroken, or even just give you some of the tools to success that I've found, because I am very content with life. I actually find that there was quite a blessing in the breakup, and I look forward to sharing that with you guys through the series. Now, if it gets heavy, or if I ever feel the need to actually explain some of the stories in depth of what I went through without putting the person on blast or making them look a certain type of way, I will do that through the membership or on Patreon. But for now, these are just going to go on the channel. So welcome to my therapy room. I will try to make a new one every time, so we'll be in a different place every time, and eventually I will let you into my dream world. Once we get there, you're going to love it. Those will be interactive journaling sessions, which we will have at the end of today's podcast. So stay tuned for that if you are looking for some shadow work that's going to help you not only understand the topic that we have today, but also to reveal where you are with today's topic. So with that being said, let's get into today's topic, which is going to be acting out of character. Now, I will say that there's quite a bit of times where we will go through something in life, whether it be a breakup, a friendship ending, or something that happens at work, and you find yourself saying after you've reacted, well, I was just acting out of character. And I found myself saying this a lot to defend some of the behaviors that I had in my breakup, and not to say that I was wrong, because technically what I was doing would be considered reactive, ABU, you know the rest, but at the same time, that's still not okay. So I wanted to go deep within to figure out why I behave that way whenever I feel like somebody has wronged me. So that brought me to writing out today's podcast. So pretty much, I wanted to start with saying that we all say this in order to hide parts of ourselves that we don't necessarily like, and we can't change until we address them. And I think that's the scariest part, is the fact that without addressing that this is a behavior that needs to be changed within us, and it actually is in our character just on a deeper side, then we won't be able to solve, fix, or become a better person. So I guess that would lead you to wondering, well, how do we even address these behaviors? And first, we must admit that they are part of our character, as scary as that may be. It's in there. It's just, on a side, or I wrote that it's not a part that we want to identify with, because it is a shameful behavior, or it could be considered toxic. So, for example, say you are dealing with something that could be considered like weaponized incompetence, where you want the dishes done a certain way, and this person is like, oh, well, you do them better, or I don't load it as well as you, or whatever excuse they're coming up with in order to not have to do the task. The out of character part comes where maybe on the 15th time of that, and I will side note say that maybe we shouldn't wait until it's been 15 times to address this, but that could be another discussion for another day. But on that 15th time, you decide to blow up and you say, you never do the dishes, you start using those bad words that we know in therapy are bad, never and always. We don't like those words in therapy. But you start using those words and you start attacking this person. And then when you're talking to your girlfriends later, you say, yeah, girl, I went off on him, but he had me acting out of character because He should have just known how to. Yeah, we've all been there. We've all done it. We have all done it. We've gotten frustrated and said, we acted this way because they did this. It's not helping anybody, and it's definitely not helping ourselves. So, I put that we are focused so much on the bad behaviors of others that we excuse our own as being out of character because they did this. But how does that help us grow? So, for example, when we retaliate against an ex-partner for pushing us to our limit, but without ever examining the limit or why it exists, or even why we are willing to be pushed there, we won't be able to use it as an opportunity to grow. So that was the example that I put in my notes because I find that we always focus, I'm working on saying that we often focus on the behavior of others instead of going within to see why am I even putting up with this behavior in the first place, or what could I do differently in order to not even to get the outcome that is desired, because that's a little bit manipulative. You would really just say it's the blurred line between the golden rule and the platinum rule. And the golden rule being treat others the way that you want to be treated, and the platinum rule is treating others the way they want to be treated. And we've got to find a middle ground of treating others the way that they treat us. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. That's a no. I would say you are going to want to try to find that middle ground, whatever that means to you. Maybe, again, another episode in the future. Comment below if you want me to dive deeper into that, and we can figure it out from there. But not being a victim, I'm not victim blaming at all. And as a disclaimer, I just wanted to say that because I understand that victim blaming is a very big thing in the healing community at that. And that's not at all what I want to do here. But we need to stop and ask, are we being the victim of their behavior or our own? Because often I found that when I look back at it, I was being a victim of my own reaction to their behavior, which saying it out loud is like, wow, okay, epiphany moment. I keep having those, but it's just like, I was so frustrated with how the other person was treating me that I was just not realizing, well, why didn't I just leave? Why did I even feel like I was worthy of being treated so terribly by somebody else? That's where it comes in, is just like, are we being a victim of our own behavior or someone else's? And typically we're going to end up finding out that we're just making it worse with our reactions because we're not having emotional control. And leaving is a big one. And that could include things that we do or don't do, such as not leaving at the first sign of something that isn't for us, or getting mad when someone treats us in a way that we feel we don't deserve, and we stay and try to mold them into someone that treats us right instead of accepting that they aren't motivated to do so on their own and leaving. Just something to think about. So how do we fix this? Well, thankfully I have thought about this a lot, and we fix this by doing shadow work and journaling to allow God to reveal these flaws and heal them within us. And you can't heal what you aren't willing to address, and that's a big thing that a lot of people, I just see them stunted in their healing journey because they're still stuck on, well, they did this and they did that, but it's like, why did you accept it? Why do you feel like you're not worthy? Why are you not willing to address the behaviors that you did that allowed them to continue to treat you that way instead of withdrawing access in the first place? And healing is on the other side of those behaviors, but you first have to stop using that was out of character as an excuse to treat others the way that they treated us, or how we feel they deserve to be treated for hurting us. That's a big one. Is I used to feel as though, well, I'm allowed to treat them this way because they're treating me so poorly. And that is also building toxic habits and characteristics within yourselves that you're tapping into, instead of finding a way to resolve those issues in a way that is more therapeutic and more internal. Because a lot of the stuff that we go through, we don't even realize it's internal because we're allowing the world to treat us this way. But it could go deep. It could go deep. I'm not going to go there today, especially not on here. We would go deep into that on the Patreon or some kind. It'd have to be a community that really wants to see those videos, so it would have to be behind a paywall. But continuing on, once the act is given into, the act of acting out of character, that is, you may feel hurt and guilty for intentionally hurting someone that hurts you, but then you feel justified. So we say it was out of character. If we use the phrase it was out of character to deserve a behavior that you do or have done as a result of feeling wronged, then we disassociate the behavior or the action, though if it wasn't in the character, you wouldn't have even thought to do it. And if you did, then it was in your character, just a part of you that you don't like, accept, and worst of all, don't even identify with, which justifies it both consciously and subconsciously once a certain point has been passed, such as cheating or unforgivable acts. These out-of-character responses are our trauma responses from something we may have gone through and or learned to use as a defense mechanism, even though we know they are unacceptable. But it all goes back to being entitled to act this way, but not because we accept these as flaws, but because they are the ugliest part of our character. An example could be if you know that you would never carry out a certain act, but threaten to do so because someone did the unthinkable to you. We don't need to judge this behavior. We need to be real about why we are willing to go to such a place. I love the example when a man says that cheating isn't in their character and they cheated just that time because they were unhappy. They are using the ever-changing emotion of happiness to justify cheating, not acknowledging the character flaw behind being willing to cheat given the circumstance, which in this case is fluctuating based on their level of happiness, which has nothing to do with the other person, or at least shouldn't be motivated by another person, such as their partner, because that is a lot of pressure and unfair to put on their partner. By viewing cheating as out of character, they not only disassociate the behavior with something that they are actually doing, but they are also refusing the opportunity to heal or fix that they base their happiness on another person that could be unaware that they even have that much power and they shouldn't have that much power. But by continuing to believe that it's out of character, they, of course, disassociate, and now they think that they are not a cheater. When you are a cheater, if you cheat on somebody, just because you're doing it because you feel like you're not happy does not mean you're not a cheater, sweetie. So that's what's crazy to me is some people will really go that far to use the out of character wording and phrasing to simply disassociate themselves with behavior that they are absolutely doing. And it's really, I hate the word sometimes, but it's quite diabolical. So in wrapping this up, let's go ahead and do a quick journaling session. So these are some shadow work questions because I told you earlier that that is how you are going to break free of this illusion that it's out of your character when it most certainly is in your character. It's just a part of yourself you need to work on, and that's actually a healthy way to view it instead of saying, oh, well, I'm just going to disassociate and hope for the best. So if you're willing to do the work, here are 3 questions that are going to help you. And I have arranged these 3 questions as easy, medium, hard, because they're going to make you think. So I don't recommend doing all of these in one journaling session, but I do recommend doing them all before you write off the idea that it's not in your character, because you will find that there's something there. There's something there. So, question number 1, what are your core values and why? Now that may sound like a very simple question, But I'll give you an example. When I first started writing about my core values, I found that I valued being a good person, but I also value being a godly person, someone who people can see God shining through because they're living the lifestyle to which God would be proud of. And in continuing that journal entry, I found that those are not the same, because a good person puts others above God and themselves. A godly person puts God above themselves and everybody else. And I feel like those look like two different people. That's just me personally. I could be wrong. I'm still doing my own shadow work, but that is within mine. So, what are your core values and why? Number 2, if you fully accepted yourself for who you are, what kinds of things would you stop doing today? So that could be foods that you eat, people that you talk to, maybe that you keep around for validation. You don't even realize it. You don't really like the people that you talk to, or some of the people. You just, like I said, keep them around for validation or whatnot. And there are quite a few ways to answer this question. I'm not going to give you the answers, but I'm going to give you the question. So, lastly, and this is the hardest one, brace yourself. If someone was talking about you behind your back, what is the thing that they could say that would hurt your feelings the most, and why? That's a tough question. It's a tough question to answer. It's a tough question to ask, especially when you're asking yourself and nobody is grading you on this. Nobody's going to see it. Nobody needs to see it. This is between you, yourself, and God, or you, yourself, and you, depending on what you believe. Me personally, it's going to be between me, myself, and God. So, those are some things that I thought I wanted to share with you about what I learned about being in character and out of character. And I would love to hear your thoughts, because I just feel like we're using it as an excuse to not work on ourselves at this point. Everything is out of character, everything you don't like. So, or everything you want to excuse because you feel like somebody did you wrong, which we're all guilty of this. I'm guilty of this. I'm not condemning anybody, nor am I saying I'm better than anybody because I've even figured this out. This could be surface, and there could be an iceberg that I'm still yet to uncover over the next few decades of my life, but I think this is a great place to start. So I'm hoping that you have listened to this point in the podcast and you enjoyed it. And I will be putting out several Healing Hearts podcasts over the next few years. This is something that is a project of mine that I hope to continue building. And I would love to put together some journals for you guys and things like that. So just stay tuned for the things that are coming on the channel. Again, this is just a segment on the channel. You will still get perfume content. You will still get your vlogging content, and you will still get some reaction videos as well as a lot of hygiene stuff. So that's not going anywhere. I just think it's always good to add. So, and I don't want to make another channel. So I'm adding this podcast to it for those who want to learn and for those who want to heal. Let's heal together and let's go out there. Let's get them. Okay? Okay. So I will see you in the next video. I look forward to hearing from you in the comments below if you thought this was very helpful, if you look forward to the next episode, and if you think that we should take this discussion over to Patreon or memberships so that we can have a more intimate discussion where I can answer questions from you guys and we can chit chat back and forth, maybe even do a couple of lives. Again, you got to tell me if that's something that you want. But if you're interested, I'm interested. So let's see where this goes together, and I will see you in the next video. We're going to talk today about the fact that it was always in your character, but it doesn't have to be, and we can fix that. Let's talk about what it means to say, oh, that's out of character for me, or I only did that because I was acting out of character. How many times have you said that? How many times have you heard somebody else say that and they do that same thing over and over again every time they're in that situation? I'm not trying to read anybody. I'm reading myself. So I know from experience that it is something that we hide behind. It's a statement that we definitely hide behind, but it's not for me to get into right now. It's let's take this to the couch because I got a mic over there. It sounds it's really nice vibey. Let's go over to the couch. Bye for now.